No, I'm not gonna do that to you again, I promise. Be funny as hell if I did though, right? Lol. You know, what the hell do you even say about a record like this? 13 years. 13 years we've been waiting on this, to the point where several of us thought it might never happen, I'm sure. But here we are, pigs are flying, hell's frozen over, and any fucking day now, Gabe Newell is gonna come out of his money and sodomy cave and announce that Half-Life 3 is coming soon. That's a hell of a long wait, people. 13 years. I mean, even if it's not the longest wait we've had to deal with in the rock community, just ask any Refused, Guns N' Roses, or At the Gates fans out there. Fuck, it took the Stooges 34 years to come up with a follow-up to Raw Power, and that fucking sucked. I think the difference with Tool, though, is that their absence always felt long and drawn out. They disappeared right when they were on top, and it's not like they had a breakup or a hiatus or anything like that. One of the greatest metal bands in the world just kinda stopped being a thing. They just went radio silent, and the various shit that kept their music out of the digital sphere made that silence all the more stressful, didn't it? While absence does make the heart grow fonder, it can also make the heart grow desperate and needy and clingy and far too willing to lower its standards, and I really should stop talking about my ex before I get another angry phone call. I'm just saying, people, could anything possibly live up to 13 years of this much anticipation? Like, this kind of buildup? Does anything live up to that? Can this album live up to that? Well, no, it can't. People, look, be real. Nothing outside of an album that cures cancer, cleans your windows without leaving streaks, and impeaches Trump could live up to all that hype. It just can't. But I will definitively say this much. This album? Yeah, this is gonna be the one to beat for 2019. Like, ooh. I don't know if it's 13 years good, but this is really the cream of the crop. This is one of the best records of the decade, I would say. This album sees Tool at their most trippy, their most mind-melting, and their most devastatingly complex ever. Those of you that like your later era Tool with all the psychedelics and technical flexing, yeah, this is your dream record. Can I just say right up top that Danny Carey's work on this thing is just fan-fucking-tastic. Danny's always been one of the best drummers in the game, but on this album, he just shines on absolutely every track. His drumming is a freaking hailstorm. When this album needs to call down some thunder, it's Danny who more often than not leads the charge here. His performance is easily the most powerful thing on this record. On songs like Invincible, Culling Voices, Tempest? Seven Pest? Is this like a Lil Nas X thing? Old Tool Road remix when, Maynard? And even on the somewhat goofy interlude track Chocolate Chip Trip, Danny is just pulverizing his kit until it begs for mercy. Chocolate Chip Trip in particular is really odd and wonderful in that it's like a Toby Fox composition if it had Alex Van Halen on drums, and Justin Chancellor is right there with him, backing him up with his trademark thumps and growls behind the bass. Seriously, that distinctive, huge, and heavy and punishing blend of earthquaking low ends and avalanche-style rolling beats, that kind of rhythm production that only Tool can really do effectively, that is what I've missed for all these years. Adam Jones's guitar work is also outstanding all around, and Maynard's voice, it's always been top-notch, and he continues that tradition on this record too. Though, I will admit, his delivery is a little more... what is the word I'm looking for on this? Relaxed? oh, that doesn't feel right. Though, you could technically say that about a lot of the music here, at least as a whole. Don't get me wrong, this album still has plenty of stomping moments, and it's not like Tool can't do slower, more emotional moments. Fuck, their last album was full of that shit. But the last album also had songs like Zombie or Vicarious, where everything would just fly off the rails at points and get completely furious and raging and angry and just This album doesn't have quite as much of that. The mood overall is a bit more calm and controlled, almost serene? Well, for a Tool record at least. Straight up, this album just does not have its teeth out the way a usual Tool album would. It's different even for them. I'm not used to a Tool album being this, again, for lack of a better word, relaxed, but it absolutely works, especially given a lot of the lyrical themes of this album. As the title suggests, this record covers a lot of topics surrounding fear, panic, hysteria. Topical choices for sure, but this album doesn't really act as a reflection of the turmoil going on in society right now, as a lot of albums of its ilk tend to be. It acts more as like a balm to them, or rather, a booster shot for them. The title track is a rumination on how experiencing fear so drastically and dramatically, while being an awful experience, does enlighten you as to what's going on around you and can strengthen your resolves to those situations. Pneuma is a lovely little reminder that
luminous beings, Zoe, not this crude matter.
And though while this album does seek to be, at least in its own way, reassuring and almost comforting, it's not like a soothing record. It doesn't kiss your ass. It is not without its darker moments. Invincible, for example, is a tragic tale, not unlike Rush's Losing It or Elvis Costello's Veronica, all about Jim Hellwig's later years. And Tempest, however you say it, is one of the angriest tracks on the record, an absolutely scathing song in the same vein as The Pot, about dishonest, miserable fucks who use, abuse, and mislead everyone around them, the absolutely shameless people of the world who are so mired in their own audacity and effrontery that they themselves seem to be the only one fooled by their bullshit, but yet they keep doing it over and over again. Look, I'm not saying it's a Trump track, but if you told me it was a Trump track, I'd believe it was a Trump track. If this album is the most brutal, this album is the most fun, this album is the most psychedelic, and this album is the most heartfelt, I'd say this album is the most hypnotic. Almost every track here not only has a certain distinctive sting that lodges itself into your subconscious, but also a certain woozy blissfulness to it. It's an album that takes its time to lull you into its groove. It goes on these long, elegant stretches and takes on these wonderfully dense and absolutely crushing sonic pathways. It's just downright entrancing. This album may be long, but it doesn't waste a single moment of your time. Was this record worth 13 years of anticipatory blue balls? I wouldn't say that necessarily, but taken on its own merits as a Tool record, or indeed just as a new release for 2019, this is easily one of the most brilliant records of the year. People, I know the hype must have been exhausting for this album, but look, I'd say it's still more than worth your time. Now, please try not to take another decade and a half to release the next one, guys. Pretty fucking please. I'd rather not pay for your next album with my social security check. I'm just saying. Fear Inoculum gets 5 dead memes out of 5.
Super special thanks to Kyler Oram, Moon Madison, and Brandon Brownfield.